Tonight, we're going to explore an old and quiet practice in gardening, one that looks upward rather than downward, an idea rooted not in tools or techniques, but in timing. It's a story about the moon, the rhythms of the sky, and the long tradition of planting in relationship with the celestial cycles. This is a story about moon gardening, sometimes called lunar planting, and its connection to astrology, not as belief and not as certainty, but as a pattern gardeners have returned to for centuries. As you settle in, you're welcome to quietly notice where you're listening from, what part of the world you garden in or dream of gardening in. If you feel like it, you can share that in the comments later, along with any other strange or curious gardening ideas you'd like to fall asleep to someday. Long before modern calendars and electric lights, people lived much closer to the night sky. The moon was impossible to ignore. It shaped tides, marked time, guided travel, and illuminated work after sunset. Farmers and gardeners noticed that certain tasks seemed to work better at certain times. Seeds planted during one phase thrived while others struggled. Pruning at one time led to vigorous growth, while at another it slowed plants down. Over generations, these observations formed traditions. At its simplest, moon gardening is based on the idea that the moon's cycles influence moisture, growth, and rest. As the moon waxes, moving from new to full, it was thought to draw energy upward. Gardeners often planted leafy crops, grains, and above-ground vegetables during this time. As the moon waned, moving from full back to new, attention shifted downward. Roots, bulbs, pruning, and soil work were favoured. Whether this influence was gravitational, energetic, or symbolic was rarely debated. What mattered was that the pattern seemed to repeat. Across Europe, planting calendars were aligned with lunar phases. In indigenous agricultural traditions throughout the Americas, moon cycles guided planting, harvesting, and ceremonial timing. In parts of Asia and Africa, lunar calendars governed both agriculture and daily life. These systems were local, adaptive, and deeply observational. They were not rigid rules, but living traditions refined through experience. In the early 20th century, moon gardening took on a more formal shape through biodynamic farming. Developed from the lectures of Rudolf Steiner, biodynamics combined lunar cycles, planetary rhythms, soil health, and the ecological balance into a holistic system. Biodynamic farmers still plant, prune, and harvest according to lunar and astrological calendars. Not because the method guarantees results, but because it encourages attentiveness to cycles larger than the garden itself. Astrological gardening in this context is not about personality traits or horoscopes. It focuses on the moon's movement through the zodiac, with each sign traditionally associated with roots, leaves, flowers, or fruit. Some gardeners follow these calendars closely, others use them loosely as a guide rather than a rule. Many simply notice that working with natural rhythms slows them down and deepens their connection to place. From a permaculture perspective, moon gardening fits quietly within familiar principles. Observe and interact, use patterns rather than forcing outcomes. Work with natural cycles instead of against them. Whether or not the moon directly affects plant growth, it clearly affects gardeners. It shapes attention, timing, and care. It reminds us that gardening is not only mechanical but relational. It's also important to say what moon gardening is not. It is not a substitute for healthy soil. It does not replace water, sunlight, or biology. It does not override climate or season. Like electroculture, it exists on the margins of certainty. Its value lies not in guarantees, but in the way it encourages patience and observation. Many modern gardeners still plant by the moon. Some follow the farmer's almanac. Others use biodynamic calendars. Some simply notice the moon out of habit or curiosity or comfort. In an age of artificial light and accelerated time, looking up can feel grounding. As you listen now, you might imagine a garden at night, soil resting, leaves still, the moon moving quietly overhead, marking time without urgency. Whether or not you choose to garden by the moon, the tradition itself carries something gentle. A reminder that growth happens in cycles, that rest matters, and that not everything needs to be measured to be meaningful. If you garden, you're invited to share where you're growing, what climate you're in, what hemisphere. Whether you've noticed the moon in your own garden or not at all, there's no right answer, just a shared curiosity, moving slowly like the moon itself.